I remember when you loved me. Was it just a children's game? Well, I loved you just the same. Heaven's angels watched.
Hey, Ollie. Good to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Not at all. So one week you're pirating in Penzance, and the next you're gardening. I mean, lockdowns are so full of surprises, aren't they?
Yeah, it is.
Are you actually a keen gardener?
No. I actually, funny enough, when I was younger, growing up in Buxton, I actually worked in a flower shop. So it's definitely in the blood. But I actually started selling Christmas trees when I was about 12 or 13, probably slightly illegally, but they were paying me about £3 an hour to do that. So I started doing that, and then they asked during Christmas, because it was quite a busy period, if I wanted to come and help make some bouquets, and I was like, absolutely not, no thank you. If my friends find out about this, that'll be the end of me. And they were like, please come and have a go, and I really enjoyed it. And I then worked there for about until I left to go to drama school. Every Saturday and every sort of holidays I used to go in and make flowers. So I did that before drama school, and then it just seemed an easy way in, really.
I shall get you along to work on my balcony, because I've got this huge balcony here, and occasionally I get guys from the nursery in to move stuff around, and I've got masses of plants on it. It's all a bit crazy, but you're on my list now.
Give us a call.
So, The Pirate King in Sasha Reagan's all-male revamp of the great GNS classic. Now, is this largely... I should have tuned in, because I'd love to see you do it. It seems such good casting. I mean, really good casting.
Yeah, it was good fun. Well, you can actually watch it again, I think, on...
Can we still watch it?
In March sometime, I think you can watch it.
Okay. I mean, is this... I'm always a bit confused, because there was that wonderful Joseph Papp reinvention of the piece for Broadway, which originated in Central Park and then went to Broadway and came to the West End, where I saw it with Tim Curry as the Pirate King. And when you think about it, even the original... because they were such good satirists, GNS, and even the original, The Pirate King, is slightly dubious, I mean, he is pretty camp.
Yeah, I mean, and I definitely ran with that. This isn't actually that new vamped version. This is it's right back to the original.
Okay, that's the question I was going to ask.
Yeah. It's but it was great fun, and obviously I know the version with Tim Curry. Big fan of him, so I had that in the back of my head. But it's that thing, you just try and make it your own, isn't it? But it does lean towards the more eccentric and dubious character.
I'd love to have been a fly on the wall. I've seen one or two of her other all-male versions, but I'd love to be a fly on the wall in rehearsals for these things, because they must be a huge amount of fun.
Yeah, well, this one I sort of joined there was me, Leon Craig and Mark Akafalaran who joined the cast, and everyone else had done it before, so we essentially had 4 days rehearsal to put on an entire show. It was crazy. It was a week, but then we had a day in the theatre, and then we did a show on a Saturday and a show on a Sunday, so it was a very fast pace. I had to obviously know my stuff before I went in, and as you know, there's a lot of words, a lot of big words.
God. And absolutely, and anything involving patter you drop a stitch and you're toast. You're done, basically.
Yeah. There's a big sort of trio in Act 2, which is, I think it's about 19 minutes long, which was, it was crazy. And as well, I've never really done anything like this before. I've always sort of played the romantic lead, so it was obviously I've changed casting brackets during lockdown, but it was great fun and great to sort of have a go at it. I loved it.
You see, they aren't really these all-male renditions. They're not that far from the spirit of the original Savoy operettas, because
no, not at all.
GNS, as I say, were very sophisticated satirists, and they were beloved of all the Broadway greats, particularly the Gershwins, who just... I mean, you listen to their early shows, like Of Thee I Sing and Let 'Em Eat Cake, and they're full of GNS. I mean, it's incredible. So growing up in Buxton, were you aware just how much GNS was playing round the corner on your doorstep at the Opera House?
Well, you couldn't miss it once a summer.
Yeah.
As the whole world descended on Buxton. I was. So when I was, again, sort of, I think I started realising it when I was about 10 or 11, and I used to be part of the sort of youth GNS. So you go and you audition, and then you do a week's rehearsal, funny enough, and then you put on a show, and you get to use all the sets and all the old costumes and all that. So I did a few when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Never did Pirates though. I wish I had.
Yeah.
that would help a lot.
So tell me a bit about growing up, and I mean, when did the performer in you first manifest itself?
When I was around that time, so I was 10, 11, and I joined, well actually I was forced to join by a family friend, a Saturday drama group, which was called Rec Theatre, run by a guy called Martin Beard. And I was sort of like, well no, if I don't like it, I don't want to do it, and I'll walk out. If it's not for me, that's it. And I went on my first Saturday, and that was it. I was absolutely hooked. And I met my sort of, my lifelong best friend, a guy called Manishan Monaghan, Manny, who we did it together for then, until I went to drama school. Yeah, we did every Saturday and every Tuesday. And that was it. That was the bug. And the real turning point for me, which I've said in a few interviews recently actually, was going to watch Blood Brothers at Buxton Opera House. It toured there quite a few years, and sitting there with my dad in the audience and going, who are these people? What's going on? I'm being so moved by what was happening in front of me, and going, who are these people? And Dad was like, they're actors, and this is their job. And I think that was the worst mistake he could have ever made, because then that was it. That's what I wanted to do.
That is a totally involving show, though. I mean, I defy anybody not to be hooked in by that. Yeah. It just works, doesn't it?
Yeah, completely.
I gather growing up you had a few issues, and probably still do, because it's one of those mysterious things that, affects people all their lives, with dyslexia.
Yeah.
And is that the case? Yeah.
Yeah, and it still does affect me quite a bit. I still have to get sort of scripts and stuff like that sent, the night before and things like that. But school didn't really pick up on it at all until I left school. And I went to a sixth form, basically a BTEC. I did a BTEC in musical theatre over in Manchester, and we still had to do key skills, so you sort of your level 1, 2, and 3, and they noticed straight away that I was sort of falling behind. So I ended up having a dyslexia test then, and they were like, you're hyper dyslexic, very, very dyslexic, and I can't believe no one's picked up on this before. So then suddenly it made sense that why I was always in the bottom set at school, and all my friends were in the middle and top sets, and I still think to this day I would have done a lot better at school if I was just in the middle set with my friends and just learning a slightly different way. I still am, a very intelligent sort of person and want to learn, but I was, thrown in the group where everybody was, sort of throwing chairs at each other and nobody wanted to be there, and I just remember just sitting in sort of silence and not really knowing why I was in this group. It was tough. It was really tough. But then it all sort of clicked in, and they said this is how you learn. You're going to read things slightly differently, and I just
fascinating.
I had to take my time a lot. So obviously, like the Pirate King, learning that in in a week was I just have to really break things down, and And actually, I've done a few workshops recently over the past couple of years where directors have said, if there's anybody in the room who's dyslexic and doesn't want to do the cold reading, don't worry. Where I've never had that before. I've always been
that is great. That awareness of all these issues people have has grown, and that's fantastic to hear. Actually, you went to. I'm curious about what the soundtrack to your youth was. Let's talk a little bit about that musical soundtrack to your youth. What kind of stuff were you listening to at home, and when you started? Did show music factor there, or were you listening to pop music, or what?
It was a plethora of stuff, really. In fact, I was home just before the very first lockdown. I was in America at the beginning of the year, and then I went home quickly just before we went into an actual lockdown, just to see my sort of dad and stuff, and we were talking about this. And basically in the car, Dad had a 6 CD player car thing, and we used to listen to Frankie Valli, we used to listen to Meatloaf, we had Michael Jackson in there.
Good taste.
Yeah, very good taste. And what others? Like Shania Twain was in there, and The Beautiful South and stuff like that. So I listened to all types of music, but we did, sort of the early films, Disney films like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang and Mary Poppins were played religiously in our house, and I remember watching the video so much that the video didn't work anymore, and being really upset and shows like that. So it was definitely part of my life.
The writing was on the wall.
It was definitely on the wall.
You went to Mount View, which is a great school, and
a
a lot of great people have come out of Mount View. What did you get from drama school, do you think? And apart from an agent.
Yeah, which is until you get there, you realise that's the only thing you need to come out with. I loved it. It was actually the best and worst time. It was obviously very hard work, and I was never. I got start at the beginning. I was suddenly surrounded by people who all wanted to do what I wanted to do, which was incredible and really exciting. I also don't think I realised the amount of work that I'd have to put in. Having to work from 8 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night, and it was that for 2.5 years really until I left. It was amazing, and I did. Overall, I absolutely loved it. You couldn't pay me to go back to drama school, but whilst I was there, I did. I had a great time.
Yeah, you did quite a lot of touring when you came out. You went straight into a tour of Joseph, I gather. But touring, it's the sort of thing you have to do really when you are very young, I think. Yeah. I mean, I was an actor in a previous life, and I did a bit of touring, and the sort of things you have to put up with are just things that lose their enchantment as you get older, Yeah. But you certainly, when you were staying in digs, for example, I mean, did you have those fabulous English landladies, or were you staying in rented flats?
No, when I first did Joseph, I was in everybody's house. It was sort of, the digs that were £4 to £6 a night. It was amazing.
Yeah.
With this, the people we met, it was amazing. There was actually one where I only stayed 2 nights because this little old lady was sort of made me breakfast every morning, which wasn't in the in the agreement and stuff. She used to sit and watch me, and it turned out that she lost her son about 10 years previous, and it was as a 20-year-old, I was like, hang on a minute, I don't think this is right. This doesn't feel right.
I know. Well, I had one of those in Billingham once. Mrs. Ellerton. You see, I even remember her name. And she was always throwing food at me, and she'd always be waiting when I got back. But she was a kindly soul with a real thug of a son, who used to come by occasionally, and one time took me out drinking. Which was really inappropriate for me. But some of the places we went to, you really see life on those occasions. And then you get the landladies who say things when you arrive, like, I know every creak of them stairs.
It's like you're living back with your mother.
That's what exactly. Now, almost everyone one talks to in musical theatre, Ollie, has crossed the threshold of Les Miserables at one point or other. It's a kind of revolving door, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
How many times have you crossed that particular threshold?
I've done it. I went in twice. I've been in twice. But I actually only did 6 months at the beginning. And then I left and did Cats, and then never thought I'd go back and do it again. And I got a phone call the day before I finished Cats going, can you come back and do this for a couple of months? So I did, and I went in.
It's amazing. It's provided ongoing employment for so many actors because, there are so many, the tours and the West End and all those things coming together. But and was that a good time?
Yes. Oh my God. Well, go on, sorry.
Yeah, carry on.
Yeah, it was. It was my West End debut, and I actually got to do it with 2 of my best friends from drama school, who I lived with for the 3 years being at drama school, Craig Mather and Andy Coxon.
Andy's lovely, isn't he? He's a lovely man.
Lad.
Yeah,
good lad. So very, very talented, both of them.
Hugely.
So that was you know, we were all in the West End together. I have to say, I didn't make any money in Les Mis, and not because we were going out drinking all the time. It was just suddenly I thought, I'm in the West End, and Rent was still coming out, and it obviously was at the time wasn't the best paid job ever, but I had just had the best time ever. Best time.
It's a show. It's another of those shows that just works.
Yeah.
And you know, I remember seeing it at the Barbican when it was in previews, and it was about 4 hours long at that point. And I remember coming out at the interval and doing what I've never done before, and actually calling a friend up and saying, "Look, I'm at this thing, Les Miserables," and I've no idea where it's going, and if indeed it will ever end. But I've just seen the mother of all Act One finales, and you know, since then I've got to know it quite intimately, and got to know the composer quite intimately as well.
Right.
Claude Michel Schomburg and I have done a number of things together, and we're real musical soulmates. And he's a very gifted melodist, and we spar occasionally. But it is a great piece. Okay, let's talk about Fiero in Wicked. All eyes on the tight jodhpurs.
Very tight.
Yeah, I know. God, I swear that's the character right there. You know, it's
90% of the performance is the tight white trousers.
I mean, no, I thought you were terrific in Wicked, and I've seen the show many times, but I thought you were really terrific. And what do you feel about the sort of anglicising of it? Because a number like Dancing Through Life just feels like it feels American. It feels in that genre, and suddenly, you know, one is playing it like a kind of slightly posh English prince.
Yeah,
is that the way you were told or asked to play it?
Yeah, it's sort of. I think when it first came over here, everybody was, everyone had been listening to the soundtrack, and it was all American, and then suddenly they, changed. Sort of, they wanted it all English. Bar Elphaba, I think, was the only one they didn't want. I think Idina Menzel was like, "No, I'm sticking American." But yeah, it is. It's just the way. But they don't want it too clipped, so it's really hard to not be a prince and and talk and be very clipped and do it, because that's not what they want. They want something slightly not as edgy as that. So yeah, it was tough. But obviously, Dancing Through Life is it's Dancing Through Life is throws off the tongue a lot easier than that. So you are fighting against that constantly, and as well not to be too wet. I was so worried about being really wet and sort of no energy and sort of really on the back foot, trying to be quoted cool.
Yeah.
So yeah,
yes.
Constantly fighting against that. But I honestly I loved it. I mean, I stayed there for 2 years. I absolutely loved it, and to front a number like that was it was great.
What's the company spirit like on a show like that? Because I've known one or two Elphabas, the last being Alice Fern, and it seems to me when you visit the theatre, or when you go and see someone in the theatre, that there's a real community spirit there. I guess it has to be in any West End show, but it feels particularly close in that show. I don't know, what were your memories?
Yeah, no, exactly that, and you're sort of. It's a bit like I reckon it will be, if we ever get up and running properly again, a bit like Les Mis. It's sort of a rite of passage, and I think everybody who's in that show, whether from you're one of the dancers, or you're covering one of the roles, or you're one of the roles, it's, I don't know, you don't feel. You feel grateful for being there, and it's I don't know, it's a very warming feeling, and everybody's there just to do their best job, and you also know that all eyes are on you. There's this weird pressure with Wicked that it's normally getting recorded or filmed, or you'll find something on YouTube, so it's one of those as well. So you are all in it together, and I remember when I first joined the show, because I'd come from Les Mis and Phantom, suddenly I was doing a show where it was daytime again, and it wasn't all in the dark, and and everybody was happy and partying and on stage. I mean, so it was there's sort of a lovely feeling about it, and
it's another perfectly constructed piece as well. Again, I remember seeing it in previews in New York, and nobody knew anything about it. And I'd done a radio interview with Stephen Schwartz at the time, and he refused to talk about it because he was very superstitious. Okay. And he said, no, I'll wait until the show is up and running. And I remember asking the guy at the box office when I collected my tickets, saying, well, what's it like? You know, I have no idea what this show is, apart from the fact that it's the kind of Wizard of Oz prequel. And he said, it's big.
That was it.
I remember him saying, it's big. And of course, it was very different then from the way it turned out several months later when I saw it again on Broadway, again with the original cast. But they'd move things around and, you know, did that thing that composers do with musicals, that are not so much written as rewritten, but, you know, worked on it and seen where everything should go. And it was then a perfectly oiled machine, and it's remained so.
Well, I think as well the whole team. So I met Stephen a few times as well in various shows I've done.
Lovely man,
he's amazing, and Joe Mantello as well. Like you know, obviously they've been doing the show since the beginning, and he still comes and works with every single company, and the love that him and sort of Wayne and everybody still has for the show is it just feeds through into each company. So you do, you know, it's not sort of forgotten about. I'm not saying that any show is ever really forgotten about, but there's a real sort of, I don't know, care.
Well, that's how you maintain these shows, because it's all about maintenance, isn't it?
Yeah,
right down to everybody's performance. I mean, if it gets to the stage where people start coasting, then it starts to fall apart at the seams.
Yeah, of course.
Now, I so enjoyed your whizzer in that long overdue revival of William Finn's masterpiece, I think, Falsettos, at the Other Palace. I mean, were you aware of the show's history when it was offered?
No, I wasn't. I knew that obviously it just done a Broadway revival, and I'd sort of sung songs from March the Falsettos and all its, you know, at Falsetto Land and stuff like that throughout drama school, because sort of William Finn was a bit like, he sort of came back round again and everyone was like wanting to sing all of his stuff and all that during drama school. But I had no idea the sort of gravitas that show holds, and the audiences that came and people we spoke to after and during, and it was an amazing experience.
Because what we've got essentially are two separate pieces. Well, they were always going to end up together. Yeah. But what we've got effectively are two separate pieces. And halfway through, what happens is AIDS happens.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of what makes it extraordinary as a whole piece when you put the two halves together.
Yeah.
And again, when I first saw it, when it was first done on Broadway with Mandy Patinkin,
yes, beautiful production.
It was so raw. Everybody in the audience had personal connections with the thing it was talking about, with this terrible plague. In fact, I just started watching It's a Sin last
I know,
night.
I was just about to say that as well, so did we.
Yeah, and it's you know, it just brings the whole era back. Extraordinary. But William Finn has always been a very emotional writer, and I remember doing a program of devoted to his music, and my producer said to me, you know, please let's just have a ballad off for good behaviour, because they're all quite gloomy, but it's got great intensity, and I thought it's such a tough piece, and I thought you all did it brilliantly.
Oh, thank you.
In fact, I was talking to Laura only a week ago, Laura Pitt-Pawford, and we both said how we thought it was a defining moment for Daniel Boyes, and that moment where he moves into that older character role.
Yeah, I mean, Bless Dan as well came in quite late to the process, but he ran with it. He was an incredible person to play opposite.
But you worked so well together, and that final scene, oh boy.
Yeah, it was that. I mean, I think that he he didn't struggled in a good way, but he really took that to heart. It was harder for him than it was for me, because I think it was happening to me, to my character, but he had to watch that every day, and he was incredible, absolutely incredible.
It's amazing. Everybody involved in it has said that you could have done with another 2 weeks rehearsal.
Oh, tell me about it.
Why was that? It was just, Celador were on a budget and on a schedule.
Yeah, I don't know. I think so. I think it's down to that. I don't think anybody really realised the amount, because you're basically doing 2 shows. You're doing 2 shows in the same rehearsal period, well, slightly short rehearsal period than you do one in. So, yeah, we just needed another couple of weeks. We just needed a few weeks on just music, but what was happening was we did a few days on music, and then we were having to set stuff, learn it in the morning and then set stuff in the afternoon, just to get through the blocking of it. And then obviously all the conversations that kept happening and coming up, and having to stop and obviously talk about things and research, and we could have done with another couple of weeks, for sure.
I mean, its intricacy is astonishing. That's one of the things that makes it a great piece, is the musical intricacy and the verbal intricacy.
Yeah.
Just learning that alone, all those.
Well, it was, I think I was in 28 numbers. I'm not just like singing a bit of harmony in the back of one, like in 28 numbers. So, it was very wordy. I say to people as well, which part of the run did you watch it in? Because the first week of previews was just a memory test. It was absolutely terrifying, and we were so knackered. But then towards the middle, I ended up getting, me and Laura actually both got really ill during the middle of it. I think we were just so run down, and I actually got laryngitis, which I've never had before. And I think it was the emotional side of it as well. And then towards the end of the run, I really found my feet and found where it really settled, and then we finished. It was like, no, I've just got this.
I came to see it twice because, you're not going to see it again in a hurry. And thank heavens for those smaller theatres that will take pieces like this on, because we'd never see it otherwise. No. I mean, it's not a West End piece. Well, not the West End we have nowadays.
Of course.
Anyway, the thing I'm really eager to talk to you about, one word, Sting. Gideon in Sting's The Last Ship, which I think is such a special score.
It's beautiful.
It's of huge interest to me as I got involved in Sting's project, the album and tour, Symphonicities, which the record company came to me and they said, does Sting interest you? And I said, does he interest me? The idea of a podcast came about, and I went to his place in Malibu to do it. And we basically talked our way through the album. It was kind of a reworking of all his hit songs for full orchestra. So he toured with a kind of enhanced Royal Philharmonic Concert Orchestra. It worked astonishingly well, because the songs are so rich and so varied that you get a great arranger like Rob Mathis involved. Did you meet
genius.
Rob by any chance?
Yeah, he was there the whole time.
Well, we're very good mates, and so I want to hear all about this. So tell me how, because you came on board at the last minute.
I did Canada the year before, so it did a UK tour.
Which I saw.
Yeah, with Richard Fleeshman, who was absolutely stunning. So then he ended up doing Company in the West End, and the role was obviously available. So then I auditioned for it, and it was one of the most amazing audition processes I've ever gone through, to actually get to work with a director during a rehearsal process, which within musical theatre, I've never had the privilege of doing that really to that extent, where it didn't feel like an audition. It felt like we were just rehearsing. There was no panel. We were just in a room with the MD, Richard John, and it was just it it was amazing. So to do that, that was amazing. And then we got into rehearsals, and we had like 5 weeks rehearsals, which was an absolute joy. And then then we had a week's tech, and then we opened in Canada, which I think we did 2.5 or 3 months there. And stuff was getting rewritten. Obviously, Sting was in the show, he was there the whole rehearsal process, and with Rob as well, Rob Mathers, and it was honestly, I've never experienced anything like it, and I loved it. And the show has a very, very special place in my heart. Yeah, so we did Canada, and then we went and did LA, and was supposed to do a US tour, but COVID got in the way of that.
I mean, the Geordie accent, of course, is a notorious killer. So you can do that, Ollie. You can do anything.
Well, hopefully.
I've watched a couple of clips of with Sting on guitar, When We Dance, for example. You did a kind of a workshop or tryout in LA before the actual show?
Did. It was it was the last week of Canada. We got pulled into the company office, and they were like, we want to go to LA and promote this for next year. So like, this is going to LA next year. They were like, yeah, and we're going to do all the press. So we were like, okay, cool. And will you and Fran, who played Meg, come with us? And we were like, yes, an extra week and a half holiday in LA. Yes, please. So we got flown out, and again, just didn't quite realise that the whole of Hollywood and America would be tuning in to watch us sing with Sting. So that was incredible. And then we did that, and then we went over to San Francisco and did a press launch at the theatre, which wasn't quite as big as LA, but it was still, all the TV channels and stuff were there. So
he's a deeply intelligent and cultured man, isn't he?
Yeah.
No bullshit, just honest to goodness talent.
Yeah.
And a joy to talk to, so articulate.
Yeah, he's amazing as well, and he never makes you feel like, he's just so grounded himself. So you don't feel like he's not on a pedestal, even though he should be, because he's absolutely incredible. But he's on a level with you, and it's incredible. He's amazing, an amazing man.
I mean, you're going to pick up the pieces after things move on, if, as you say, if they ever move on after this horror.
I know. Well, I hope so. I don't know. We've not heard. I'm sort of in contact a little bit with Sting. There was a possibility that my fiancée was going to go over to America and do a TV series, which he helped out with the visa application, and him and Trudy have both been amazing, to just with references and things like that. It fell through, thank you to Donald Trump, because we couldn't get the visas through quick enough. But it's fine. It'll happen at some point. But now he's gone. They're just so welcoming, and so hopefully they will pick up the pieces. I know he had a residency in Las Vegas, which I think is going to have to happen first before anything happens. But who knows what will happen.
Well, Rob, coming back to Rob again, I've for many years have written for a magazine called Gramophone, and Rob's a regular subscriber, and he's a great classical buff. And when I did the project with Sting, he made himself known to me and said, I've been reading you for years, he said, and it's just such a thrill. And we started sparring off about Mahler and all sorts of things that he's obsessive about. And arrangers are the most fascinating people to me. I mean, the imagination of those arrangements on Symphonicity is extraordinary. I don't know if you've ever heard the album.
I've heard bits of it.
Well, the track I think is extraordinary is We Work the Black Seam, which is a song about mining, really.
Right.
And Rob decided to orchestrate it as a wind band piece. So it sounds like a colliery band, the whole arrangement. And I've always had a great weakness for wind bands anyway, and it is spectacular. It really is spectacular. The whole album is, and they reproduced it live, which is even more extraordinary.
I mean, that man's brain is... To watch him work in a room, and especially with Richard John, who was our MD as well, who's another musical genius, to watch them work together, and with all these voices that they had, and we'd just be rewriting stuff in the room, rewriting stuff in warm-up before the show. In Canada, we opened the show with this beautiful hymn that Sting had written and Rob had orchestrated, and it was all a cappella. So it started. We pitched all our notes off a ship horn at the beginning, and just where it went, it was just it was stunning. And just to be in that room. When do you ever get to be in a room? I think, I can imagine if you were in the original cast of Hamilton, you'd have that sort of, input. But that's what it felt. You were creating something really special that nobody is going to hear unless they come and watch the show. It was. It
really says a lot for the quality of Sting's work that someone like Rob, wants to commit themselves to working with him over a long period of time, because I know they've been working together from Symphonicities onward, and The Last Ship was always there in the background. It's a great source of disappointment to me that he didn't choose to open it in the UK, because it should really have really Tyneside and then come down to the West End. I don't know why he went the Broadway route.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I know the UK tour started up there, but I think he was just over in America, and I don't know. I'd be making something up, but I've no idea why. I've actually seen a few clips of the Broadway version. I think there's some really lovely stuff in there.
Yeah.
But obviously it's been completely rewritten and stuff over here. It's now not a son, it's a daughter, and it's a lot more female heavy, and which I think is totally right.
It was Rachel Tucker, wasn't it, in Broadway? Extraordinary. So you said you've been working on some workshops. Things will change after this pandemic with theatre. There's no question. And I've got a funny feeling that the people that will benefit most are the new writers and the smaller theatres.
Yeah.
But I might be wrong. I hope I'm not, because that's the lifeblood of the future, and we'll turn into a museum culture otherwise.
Exactly.
Have you got anything on the cards? Because you seem to have managed to work through this pandemic quite a lot.
So fortunate, yes, so lucky. I'm actually, funny enough, after this phone call, I've got another rehearsal with an LA producer, which sounds a lot more bougie than it actually is. They're writing a new musical, have written a new musical, which I'm doing it's sort of like it would be a workshop, but they're doing an album version of it. So we're remote recording that next week, I think. So that's that possibility, if that goes ahead. When again, America's even more buggered up than we are at the moment. So that's it really. And then there was this Treason musical, which I was a part of. Again, which was for the demo, which is the demo album's out on iTunes and Spotify and all the other things, but nobody really knows what's happening with that. It's sort of all, which everybody's just trying different things, and and a lot of things are workshopping over, are being recorded, just audio, so lots of scripts, because you can't get in a room with producers, and they can't get in a room to film people, so you go in 2s and 3s and just put the stuff down. Has been happening, but I've honestly no idea.
So on your sort of bucket list for the future, are there any particular roles you covet that you would love to do, just out of interest?
It's so funny. If you'd asked me this a year ago, I'd have a long list for you to say. But it's so weird when something's taken, sort of the carpet's ripped from underneath you. You just there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and I will be doing this for as long as I can. But it sort of seems to just I don't know. There's no, and it's not that the spark's not there. I'm still creating things, but. I just can't see it happening at the moment. I think it's
partly because we've all had to readjust to such an extent, and humans are very resourceful in adapting to whatever situation they're in, and we've all had to adapt colossally. The thing that I've been very fortunate too in the amount of work that I can do in this situation. And I'm doing some live streams, just a very, I've done 1 or 2, but I'm doing some more. But one of the things that I find very difficult to come to terms with is the amount of free time one has. Just because, in every respect, social and work-wise, because you're not socialising and you're not doing as much work. What have you found yourself occupying your time with most of? What's a good day for Ollie?
Well, good days either. Actually, I mean, I've been so grateful. So my best friend set up a gardening company during this pandemic, and so we, it's slowed down now, obviously because of this third lockdown, and it is the winter.
Yeah.
But doing a couple of days a week, 3-4 days a week with him, and just getting out of the house and doing that. But a good day for me is, we wake up, we've started doing a bit of yoga, which I said when I got back from America. I said to Mel, I was like, we need to have a bit of a routine, otherwise we're going to go crazy. We don't know how long this is going to last.
Yeah.
It could be it will be a couple of months. That's what we were saying. So we were like, let's definitely let's stretch and do a workout in the morning, however strenuous or hard it is. That's what's going to get done. It's like making the bed, isn't it? You've done something today. And honestly, we've kept that going for like nearly a year now. So, we get up, we sort of work out and then have a bit of food, and then if the weather's good enough, go on a nice walk or a bike ride, and for that sense of things, it's been lovely. But that doesn't earn you any money.
I know, but it's interesting you say about creating a routine, because that's something we've all had to do, and it's a very human thing to do, is to allocate your time throughout the day. And I've developed a routine as well, and it's except on days when I'm allowed to break it because I've got an urgent job on or whatever.
Exactly.
And I've never watched so much Netflix in my life.
I know. It's in fact, we've stopped watching. We can't watch a film anymore because it's like, it's like too much to invest in a 2-hour film. You're like, no, I need 10 hours.
Yeah.
Yes. It's it's crazy.
Amazing. Well, I shall never forget the day you arrived in my building, head to toe in your bike leathers.
I know.
For about 3 seconds, I was fooled.
I realised.
You see, I thought, "Oh, who's this? Who's this butch creature that's just walked through the door?"
No, it's all smoke and mirrors.
That's fantastic. Well, look, bless you for being with me.
No, thank you so much.
And look, let's hope the curtains start rising again. But I think people have done incredibly well considering, and I love the spirit of people, the fact that, there is no money in it, but people are doing all these live streams and live videos, and, and I wish one had the time and the inclination to watch all of them, because there's so much out there. That's the problem.
I know.
And with the best will in the world, it's hugely competitive at the moment. For people's time, for people's viewing time, there's great demand on it. But anyway,
it is. I find it hard watching theatre on. I've watched a few things just to sort of even just donate to whatever, just to be like, take my money, just to keep it going.
Support your colleagues. Yeah.
Exactly. But it's I do find it's just not the same for me at all. It's not the same. I really, and I know, and it's amazing. It has to happen, and I implore it. But I'm a bit like, it's just not got quite that same.
Being
buzz.
in the room where it happens. I mean, that Lin-Manuel's line is hey, it's right on the money. And really. I think the day I hear an acoustic orchestra for the first time after all this, I will be a puddle.
Yeah, I know.
It's going to be very moving. Anyway, look, let's hope. Fingers crossed. And thanks for being with us, Ollie. Great.
No, thank you so much.
Okay. Cheers,
cool.
mate.
Bye.
Bye.